My name is Whitney Friedlander, and I'm a journalist out here in LA covering entertainment, and I'm very excited to welcome you guys to the screening and talk back today with Mario Van Peebles.
Fellow SAG peoples. I'm my fellow SAG peoples.
Specifically Mario and his awesome hat.
I wore my thinking cap. So.
Yeah.
It's funny because in New York, people run around and look at you real quick. And then I would go, no, I didn't go Kanye, read the hat. Back up, slow down, read the hat. One dude said, man, that's a risky shit to wear up here.
It's true, actually.
It is, I know.
And the shirt as well,
yes.
Branded shirt as well.
My dad always said early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise. So me and Justin's our producer, give it up for Justin. Yeah. So I had to, so yes, we're gonna have him out. How you doing? I'm good. You know what? It's not popular to say this, I know, but I'm having so much fun. And people don't usually say that because maybe they think it'll draw the evil eye or something will happen to you. But when you do what you love, and I'm not a materialistic cat. I have seriously, I have one jacked up old car. People always think it's my second car. It's my only car. And the air conditioning just went out on it. But I get to make the movies I want. I'll put my money where my mouth is. I do it. You know, I always said three kinds of people: people that watch things happen, people who complain about things that happen, and people who get out and make it happen. And so when you're doing what you love, it's pretty fun. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, tell me why you had to decide to write, direct, and star in this movie. That's like 3 of those hats.
Wait, the question is why?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. What I try to do is do some work for the studios, things I like, and then do films that I'm compelled to make. And I grew up seeing my dad do it, and he's crazy enough to put his own money into movies, and it did pretty well. And so far, I've done pretty well with him. So it's just because sometimes if you for example, it's hard. You can't really take McDonald's money and make Super Size Me. And if you take the studio system's money, if you don't do it independently, then you're beholden to the studio vision, which is cool with some movies. If you're making a movie about guys with capes and they're going to run around, that might be the best way to go. But if you want to make a movie like this and put it out around the midterms and maybe hopefully get some folks to be entertained but think again, that's not a vision that you can water down and make by committee. So I knew I wanted to make a film like that, and then I just put the script out there. And they say Hollywood's not just black or white, it's green, it's the color of money. But you get a lot of folks who come out who just made their money on something else, and they could, like Bill Fichtner got to page 54 on this. He said, oh, this is tragic, I have to be a part of it. And so people will come out that are not about the money. And then there are also people that you thought would be there. Like I have a friend of mine, he's a Capricorn, and yeah, brother, I'm a Capricorn. You know I'm gonna do this, dog. You know how we do. Come to do the movie, he's nowhere to be found. But then some other person will come up, and sometimes they look nothing like you. They don't have the same belief system as you. And if you're open to love from all places and good energy from all places, it comes. Right. It really does.
So tell me about that. Tell me about casting and what it's like to be, because clearly you've dealt with your own casting agents on the other side of things. So what it's like to cast someone else for your part, maybe some of your friends, maybe some of your former friends didn't get the part, and what it's like, to cast people of diversity, cast people who maybe you wrote the character one way and then some other person with a different background totally booked it.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Where I may put something out there as a writer and then not have thought about casting it in any particular way, and someone will just come in and blow me away. And I've had actors who've convinced me that they could do something, and they came in and nailed it. And another thing is I've tried to, just because my own family's so diverse, my mom's white, my dad's black, my sister's got red hair, my aunt's gay. I gotta love everybody.
Whoa, redheaded people?
Oh, I got redheaded people, man. I got ginger people in my family. And so I gotta love everybody. And I think that's really healthy because it makes you sort of racially literate. I guess that's the best way to put it. And because of that, like when I did New Jack City, my first flick, you guys see that? Yeah. So okay, so you know that. So New Jack, I did New Jack, and here's what's interesting. When I did New Jack, at the time, if you were in an action movie and you were the black guy, you know, you usually played the police commissioner. And you'd say stuff like, do it by the book or I'm gonna have your ass. And you would see a lot of great black actors play that role. And so when I got New Jack City, and you know, probably because Spike was busy and they needed a blackologist, frankly. And I had done Heartbreak Ridge with Clint Eastwood at Warner Brothers. So they met me, they said, well, Clint likes this kid, so bring him in. They brought me in, and I got New Jack City. So then they, when I went to cast it, one of the producers, who's also a brother, said to me, hey, we could cast it and we could put the white guy in and have him say, do it by the book or I'll have your tail. And we laughed, and I thought about it, and I went home. I looked at my family wall. I was like, you know, if I make reactive cinema, that's not better. It's just get even. Mm-hmm. It's just reactive. It's not a step up, it's a step it's a horizontal, get back kind of. I'm not gonna do that. So I went back and I said, no, I wanna get Russell Wong, Pool Asian brother, to play one of my New Jack cops. Judd Nelson, really cool Jewish brother, to play one of the cops. Ice-T will play another cop, and I'll get this prosecutor, make her a sister, make her a black woman, a female prosecutor. And I played the police commissioner and said, do it by the book or I'd have your ass. Mm-hmm. And so I just mix it up. I paint with all the colors. That's super important. And here's what's interesting. Here's another thing, is that if I had done Armed with the studios, it would have been about the ethnicity of the folks in the movie. I wanted to make a movie with folks of all colors, because Bullets are very democratic. They're getting everybody, right? So I wanted to, but the movie's not race-centric. So sometimes if you have a vision that's unique, you have to go out, and specifically for casting, because you've got to be able to go, no, I want Bill Fichtner for this, but I want a Nigerian barber, you know, who's gonna, you know, speak with her own voice, and then Gemma Dallinger came in, and she had this really great little accent. She goes, hello, would you like me to do American? I said, no, baby, do you. So she just did her the whole time. And then no one's safe when I make a movie, you know, so I called up my dad, of course. And then I called Dionne Warwick and, you know, and DC Young Fly, and just really like to mix it up.
Yeah, you filmed part of it at your house, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. When you make an indie film, you better put it all on the screen. So, you know, and you know, sometimes it gets a little rough. I have a cabin in Big Bear too. But the thing was, really, the story fell into place because it's all based on real things from the headlines. Remember, Chris Donner was the cop that went against the LAPD folks. Something went wrong. I think someone did him wrong up there, and they eventually got into a shootout, and the shootout ended in Big Bear. So consequently, I was like, oh, let's wrap the movie up in Big Bear. And then there was a brother was it Cleveland, Justin? It was Cleveland, right? Yeah, the brother in Cleveland who discovered the little girl locked in the basement, and he had that crazy hair, and they made a whole music video on him. So if you understand what's happening culturally, you're like, oh wow, that's what that's based on. Even the scene where there was an article, I was like, this is crazy. There's an article about a guy who broke into his neighbor's apartment because his neighbor was torturing some poor woman, only to find out that his neighbor was watching torture porn on full blast, and the guy's running around in there with a kimono and a sword and a blow-up doll. I was like, that's got to go in the movie. The dude with the tinfoil cap, that's in the movie. So some of the weirdest stuff is in the movie, and then I just had to find really weird actors to play it. And then my producer, Justin here, he said, okay, I'll do the cameraman. So me and Justin were the only two people that were willing to have a real tarantula put on our heads. So that was, you know, casting by like attrition, you know, because folks were like, nah, I'm not the one. So
does that now go in your acting bio, like willing to put tarantulas on my head?
Yes.
Not arachnophobic.
Face your fears, man. Well, the thing was, we had a bug dude, and you know, when you're doing an indie film, you got to really watch the numbers. So me and Justin are going through, and we found this dope bug guy. He looked and talked like a bug man. He's like,
what does that mean exactly?
Oh, like, you know, those guys, you wouldn't let them babysit your kids, let me tell you. He'd be like, yes, Mario, this particular bug here has this certain hand. It really just feels like a hand. Just let it, it's actually very cool to the touch.
So he's like
So
comic book guy from
Oh
The
yeah,
Simpsons.
he had boxes of bugs,
Yeah.
all kind of. So we could afford one day of Bug Man. So I had to do all the bug stuff in one day, and he starts dropping them on me. He dropped Betsy. He said, Betsy likes to get warm. She may go down your collar. I'm like, oh man. So all those bugs, you know, we had some real bugs falling.
You and Betsy had a moment.
Me and Betsy had a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell me about what it's like to play a composite. I mean, you're not doing based on an actual one person. You're doing composite based on a composite of many people. So how you figure out your character with all of that when you're mixing like fact and fiction a little bit?
Well, to some degree, you know, there's that old saying, nothing stops a bad guy with a gun like a good guy with a gun. I've played a lot of good guys with guns in my career as an actor, and I wanted to sort of play against that a little bit and play a good guy who's now on the no-fly list, has a skewed sort of perception of reality, and has multiple guns, and is in a very tricky place in his life. So that was tough that way to play that, but what I wanted to do was take you inside his head, so that you don't really realize the first two acts you don't know where the hell this movie is going. You're sitting there going, what the hell is this movie? A barbershop flick? No, okay, that's not a barbershop flick. Okay, it's a caper flick? No. Oh, what is this movie? How do I react to this movie? And somewhere around that early third act, the reveal comes, and you suddenly know you've been inside the brother's head, and he's actually a good guy. He's fighting demons outside and inside. And so I wanted to take you, you know, the ego needs to be okay with whatever our actions are. So I wanted, and this guy desperately needed a mission. So when you understand what's going on, it's kind of a complex character, because he's actually set up these other people to protect him from the risk of being loved or believed in and possibly letting folks down again. And that's very scary to us. But the most tricky thing that the ego can deal with or can't deal with is in being invisible. So if a kid can't get recognition for being an A student, he'll get recognition, or she'll get recognition from doing something else. And at this point, you know, Chief has that really sort of prophetic line in the end where he said, I guess we're born in this world looking for love, and we settle for attention. He's at a place where he's bottomed out and is sort of one heinous act away from being notorious. And he's starting to realize that he's a very dangerous guy. And then at the end, you know, Grace sort of gives him a reason to keep on and to believe in himself. And one lady came out and she said, oh, I know exactly what this movie is. It's Beauty and the Beast. I said, really? How do you see that? She goes, no, Grace is the beauty, and she believes in the beauty in the Beast. And because she believes in him, he starts to believe in him. And that's a threat to Jonesy. It's a threat to the old him that would have him be alone and yet be in a place that's familiar emotionally. And he's moving into a new place where he's still dysfunctional, but now Jonesy is wearing a suit and he's more functional. He's sort of like my uncle who can drink a whole lot, but still can sort of function and get those mints going, and you would never know. You know what I mean? He's functional. So I've never played a character like that before. And it's based on real folks. I mean, I have some folks that I know and folks in my family and other people that have fought with schizophrenia. And I said, what if those voices weren't just voices? What if you saw them? You know, what would that be like? And what if you knew it? You knew that. You'd be like, what? And that scene when Chief realizes that Grace can see the spider on his arm, it's so heavy to him that he goes, wow, you can really see it? He's finally found someone who can see what he's going through.
So what research did you do to make sure that you were playing this role accurately, then with proper respect to people with schizophrenia, people with mental illness?
I read a lot. I talked with people. I'm a nerd, not just for books, but for people. So I meet people. ARM just won the audience award in the Newark Film Festival. And after the film festival, this huge black guy brother came up to me, shook my hand. He was looking in my eyes, very intense. He goes, I know you've been there. I know. And we will meet again. And I was like, oh, man. I was, where's Justin when I need to blame the white man?
Oh, no.
Justin, he made me do it. But yeah, you know, but what people I think responded to who have fought with it is you rarely see. I don't think I've ever seen a person of color specifically played as, you know, battling mental illness, but in a way that he's still an affable cat. He's still a guy that is a likable guy. We just got a big review from the military because they were saying that they liked that he was clear he was fighting outside and inside, but it was not just played as a nut job. That he still played as someone who wants to do the right thing and is trying to be a force for good. Yeah.
So on that note, let's talk about how, you know, you said there's like 3 different movies overlapping each other. As an actor, I mean, obviously you wrote and directed, so you have a better idea of it. But as an actor, how do you play that without giving away the surprise too early?
You have to be absolutely in the moment. I never know. Like, I didn't know you were going to ask me that question. So my response is right here, right now. So you've got to be very present. As a director, I'll set things up, but I really never know what I'm going to do as an actor because my best acting is reacting. So if I have a scene with you and you throw something else at me, I'll react as that character, and then you'll bounce back from that, and it keeps it super real and very present. So that, I think that's the biggest thing, being very committed to what it is. And then also, you know, understanding that these different people that Chief's created are facets of who he is. So Jonesy is part of who he gets to be the guy going, come on, put the weapons away, be reasonable. And yet you realize at the end, homie got quite the collection. So in fact, when he's carrying that chest up into the woods, it's almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He knows there's a danger that when he turns, he may get those weapons. So he knows he needs to stow those somewhere safe before he turns again. That's a difficult, and not understanding why Jonesy is right with you, that in effect is the last guy to believe in you. So it was a really tricky. The trickiest place for me was the scene with when Chief is hung up at the end in the cabin.
Physically, that must have been hard to film.
It was hard, but it was also hard because, you know, in my life, like I said, I'm a pretty happy cat, and I've gotten to do what I love doing. I always think there are 3 loves in life: love what you do, love, enjoy the people you do it with, and love what you say with your work. And if you get that to line up, you're pretty rich no matter what the paycheck is. But Chief, on the other hand, is someone that's really bottomed out emotionally. And when he realizes what a threat he is, and that he really is actually better off dying that night, that's a real empty place to be. That was hard to do, and not a fun place to be, you know. Yeah.
How much time did you have for that shoot, for that scene?
I don't remember, Jay. Do you remember how we didn't? The whole thing we shot in 21 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a hustle, but you know, when your own money's on the line, you do move. And that's the good thing about being an actor director. When you come in and you're sane and clear and know your lines, people take that rhythm. The other thing that's very clear, and I said this on MSNBC, is as the director, actor, producer, I set the tone for what's okay on the set. I hire all kinds of people in front of the camera, all kinds of folks behind the camera. I listen. Some of the better ideas are not always my ideas. Sometimes other people have great ideas. I try to be egoless enough to listen to their great ideas and enough of an ego to claim their ideas later on TV. But so I try to create an environment where people can do their best work. I'm responsible for the tone on this set. What's disconcerting now is whether you agree with the decisions being made, this president is not setting a tone for America that's fun to follow. And, you know, and I was really cognizant, I was really thinking, I said that on MSNBC, when you're the leader and you're putting it out there, you're saying what's okay. And if you're saying it's okay to be divisive and go at each other, that we follow that. You create a climate of fear. And I think that's why it's not just about a movie, it's about trying to make audiences think and discern a little bit and get that movie out before the midterms. Yeah. So when the military comes in and says, we love it, or the audience award at Newark digs it, which is real people, that's really important, you know. And I know this movie, you're not going to see it on billboards. It's a matter of us tweeting about it and saying something and go on the go on and rate, give it your own rating. Say, you know, speak your voice, because that's the only.
Get your smartphones out, yeah.
Yeah, get your phones out, do it. It's so important because otherwise you just get Cape Crusader movies, which are fun, but they will lull you into not, you know, who the bad guy is and who the good guy is, and people forget. They start taking a knee and they forget to vote. Get your ass out and vote. So I wanted to make a movie that, to some extent, had all the fun stuff we love in a good thriller, but might make folks get out and vote a little bit.
All right, so on that, when did you start writing this? Because if your goal was to get it out in time for 2018, you had to start writing it when?
Oh, I started, it came pretty quickly. And when I wrote it, I didn't know how, like we were watching it the other day, and there's that whole scene where my character finally says, "Okay, I'm with the U.S. Marshals," and he says, "I guess they took the deal," and the red goes, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I guess they took the deal. They, you know, that's what happens. They turn state's evidence." and people are like, "Oh, you know, we didn't know
different meaning now than 6 months ago."
The whole Mueller probe would take on a whole another life that was non-existent when we wrote the movie, and suddenly it's like they go up the food chain of command. They took the deal, and so suddenly all that had a different meaning. But I started writing it over 2 to 3 years ago. I started just putting the pieces together and getting things from the headlines. And then I went out and and people like Van Jones came out, and people on all sides of the gun issue came out, and it's been a ride ever since. And it just seems to get more relevant. So
yeah, I mean, I love Van Jones, but tell me why you wanted him as opposed to just an actor playing a broadcast journalist.
He just seemed like he could really nail it. I said, well, you've had a little experience.
You can nail being a broadcast journalist?
You can do it. And plus he has a platform to get things out, and he's a believer in what he's saying, which is great. And then I had other folks who had other things. And, you know, I still have my 6-shooters from when I did Posse, so technically I'm a gun owner, but I'm not on the no-fly list. You know, so I still have my old classic pistols, but we have to realize that thoughts and prayers are not enough to stop these mass shootings. But so I wanted people who could speak on it. I wanted smart actors. Like I just did some press with Bill Fichtner. He's such a smart dude. And Van's such a smart guy and not afraid to speak truth to power. So I wanted people that you could look in their eyes and go, they know what they're saying. I can listen to them. And whether I agree with them or not, I'm going to remember what they said. And that's what I wanted as a filmmaker. Whether you like the movie Armed or not, you'll remember you saw it, because this is some crazy stuff.
So I know you do still act from time to time, and you still do direct commercial things from time to time. So how do you choose which of those projects you want to do?
That's a good question. People send me, I have eclectic taste. So people sent me a script on the USS Indianapolis a while back, and the story was so incredible, and the karmic justice of that story was interesting. I did Roots, the second night of Roots, the reboot, and or the sort of fashioning of it, and I didn't know I would do it, and they called me up, and it was huge and really intense. And so there's often people bring me things that I had no idea I would want to do, and I'll go off and direct other people's shows, and I like that. Like I did Bloodline. I don't know if you saw the Bloodline, but I did the 3rd season, and I acted and directed that. So and I know the guys who run it. So people call me with all kinds of stuff, and I'll get involved. And I love just acting. You know, when I got the honor of playing Malcolm X in Ali, and thank you. And my dad had interviewed Malcolm when he was in Paris, and my 2 daughters were playing Malcolm's daughters, and then Malcolm's daughter was working with me to play her father, and it was super intense. And it was on the set playing Malcolm, and Ali would come down to the set, and Ali came down one day, he'd be like, "Van Peebles, if you were any smarter, boy, I'd enjoy your company." and he was so fun, and he said to me, if you could do a movie about the world's first Black Power athlete, could you do a movie about the world's first Black Power film director? And that was my dad, and that became the sort of impetus for me to make Badass, about my dad's struggle to make his film Sweetback's Badass Song. So I didn't know that little bird would come to me, you know, like that. And you know, and then Michael Mann asked me to come on and do something, direct something for him. He's doing Robbery Homicide with Tom Sizemore, who's wild to work with. Brother Tom is no joke. And then I went on to do Damages, and things evolve, and I meet people that I like, and through them I find projects that I like, and it's been a good run. I think Clint Eastwood was the one that told me, he said, no one's gonna be flavor of the month for 30 years. So in that 30 years, remember that this business gives you a very truncated time to define who you are. When you get hot, if you're a jerk, we'll know that quickly. And if you're okay with yourself, we'll know that quickly. And if you're hot, people will put up with you if you're a pain in the butt. But when you're cold, they won't. And you keep your talent. So a lot of it will come down to your talent and your people skills. And if you have both, you know, and you're fun to work with, people will want to see you get back in the mix. And I found, like I said, people, especially if you're really open to it, like Clint Eastwood is the first guy to give me a break. He's 6'4", Republican, you know, we wouldn't be on the same political spot, but the dude took me to Warner Brothers and let me do all I could do, and I got to write songs for the movie, and then I got to direct New Jack City, and he sent me a lovely note saying I saw a movie directed by Stitch Jones, which was the character I played in Heartbreak Ridge. And you never know where help and care and support will come from. So don't leave any of humanity on the table, you know, off the table. You know, include everybody, and you'll learn so much more if you include everybody.
Well, similarly, I know you have an economics degree, so I'm sure raising funding is a little bit easier for you than someone who's not coming into this cold. But do you have any advice for anyone who's trying to make, any actor who's trying to make their own film?
Oh yeah, lots. Here's the thing. My dad had said if I knew how to do it, if I had to do it over again, I'd know how to spend money more than just make it, i.e. invest it. So that was real important. He said, some dads will teach you to play ball. I don't play ball that well, but I'll try to teach you how to own the team. And that was significant. So I was lucky enough to go, I went to Columbia, got a BA in economics, which was cool. I can speak the language of finance to some degree. But it also helped me with critical thinking, because my parents are really free thinkers. And they always said to me that Frantz Fanon left behind, said that the best colonizers leave behind the churches and the schools to socialize the oppressed to the oppressor's point of view. So when I was taking economics, they would teach you that if you had a wooden chair, the price of that chair would be what it cost someone to go to the forest, cut down the tree, make the chair, glue it together, take it to market, and then the supply and demand, the law of supply and demand would determine the price of that chair. But actually that's flawed economics, because what that sort of colonizer mentality never took into account was what nature, what that tree was doing for free in the first place. So once they go, oh my God, that tree's holding down topsoil. That tree's an animal habitat. That tree's providing oxygen, which we kind of need. That tree could have medicine. Oh, that tree might even have a spirit. Suddenly the value of that is a whole different thing. So part of what was cool about taking economics was when you're a critical thinker, you look at it and you go, oh, but that's flawed, because that's actually leading to us to a place where we'll destroy our own planet if we're not careful. So I think being a critical thinker was as important as being a financially literate thinker. That's super important. And I mention that because since I graduated from Columbia, because I have one of my daughters is going there now, and I had to speak at the school. Since I graduated, we've destroyed over 52% of the world's wildlife. 52%. Man, that I mean, really. So one of the things that I want to do is when I get on the mic or when I make a movie is say something, entertain us for sure, but make sure you're saying something that moves us forward. But yes, knowing finance has been helpful. You know, in some cases I'm using my own money, but most of the time I'm doing pretty well with it and figuring out how to. I would like to live in my house, so definitely say something nice about this movie.
Maybe get a new car.
Maybe get a new car. But the thing about having a car that no one wants is it's so relaxing. You know, it is. I mean, here's the thing. It's like you don't have to. People come up and bump into it. If I had a beautiful car, I'd be pissed off, or You know, I have a friend who has a beautiful car, and he's always upset. Ooh, who's you doing that? I don't want to be that guy. No, there's a line in life. On one side of the line is having the things you want, and the other side is doing the things you want. I want to go to India. I want to travel through Africa. I want to read books and do yoga and be an old dude with a beard on one day going, ah, ha, ha. That's what I want to do. I don't want to own no, man. Stuff that you own owns you. So I'm good. So yes, my car is a drag, but don't nobody want to steal it. And they don't want to carpool with my ass. They recognize me. And they go, seriously, there's no air conditioning? I'm out. So, you know. I'm good. I'm good.
Good to know.
And I got it used. That's the other thing.
Wow.
Yeah, I mess around, man.
No. So I know
but you asked me about making movies. I'm going to get back to that because that's important. So here's the thing. Making movies now is actually easier because the technology is so much easier and accessible. The trick is getting it distributed. That's where the gatekeepers will get you see? So that's the tricky part. So you got to sort of put your other hat on. You got to go, let me put my other thinking cap on and really think as a producer and say, you know, if I get Mario, he's colored. I get me Laz Alonso, he colored, he good looking. I get Van Jones, he colored. I'll get my BT sale. I'm going to get me Bill Fichter, he look white. I get me a little British girl, she look white. I get my foreign sale. Oh, and I get, you know, so you got to think like that. I mean, it's crazy, but you got to really think about mixing it up because if you just want your BET sale, you might not be doing as well foreign as you want, unless you put on some Wakanda shirts or something. I don't know, but
it's
so you got to balance it out, and that's why I say balance it out. Look at the whole thing. Don't take it personally. You know, just don't take any of the isms personally. That's the one thing is that, you know, sometimes as actors we go in there and we take stuff personally. Don't take it personally, man. It's not about. Sometimes they're taking this character and it has nothing to do with you. And I'm on the other side as a casting person, you know, obviously in the room when people are auditioning. And sometimes they're terrific, but we decided to go a different way with the role. And
decided to go a different way. No one in this room has ever
heard that. No, they decided. No, I read an audition thing. It said we're looking for a Mario Van Peebles type.
And you're like, I know one.
They said no, we've gone a different way with the role. It can happen. I think the other thing is to remember there's 4 phases in an actor's life. If you're lucky, there's Mario who. Get me Mario. Give me a young Mario. And Mario who. So do something you're proud of, you know, and work with some people you love, bring new people in, and then get off the stage.
So I mean, obviously you grew up in this business. Your dad's an actor, like your dad's in the business. Tell me about, did your dad ever try to talk you out of it? And did he ever give you any advice for it?
He did. I once had an audition. I had an audition over on Sunset, one of my first auditions, as a singing cheeseburger.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. It was whack.
Did you book it?
I didn't get the job. My dad said, you're not going to get that. I don't see it. He's the one. He told me early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise. So I told you that. He also told me before I directed New Jack City, he said the best thing you could do is learn the Kipling poem "If." You know that poem?
Anybody know? The original title for the movie.
If was so yeah. And that's part of what you see over there was if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, yet make allowances for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or lied about, don't deal in lies, or hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. I love this next verse. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, think and not make thoughts your aim, meet with triumph and disaster, and treat those 2 imposters just the same. And I'll jump to the last verse, which is, if you could talk with the crowds, nor lose your virtue, walk with the kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither loving friends nor foes can hurt you, and if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds of distance run, yours is the world and everything in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. So I learned that poem, brother. And and so that and that's why in this thing one of the things that Chief tries to do to calm and center his mind is he recites poetry and he listens to music, and a lot of the music in the movie comes from his head. So it's like it's actually scored from inside his head. It's very internal. So the whole first part of the movie is basically an internal story. Yeah.
So I have a couple questions from the audience.
Great.
And I'm sorry if I mispronounce anyone's name. From Vinoy, they want to know, as an accomplished veteran artist, do you have a preference between acting versus directing, and why or why not?
Where's Vinoy? Oh, hey, Vinoy. Where are you? Are you a teacher?
No, t-shirts.
Oh, t-shirts.
The lady wants the t-shirt.
So do I have a preference? Yes, women mostly, but you have to audition. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I mean,
you know this is being recorded, right?
Yeah, no. That's the thing is I have to joke, man. I have to laugh, and that's part of, like, I think aging well has to do with laughing, doing what you like. They did I know this is off the subject, but they did a study on centurions. People that live to be over 100 have a couple things in common. One, first and foremost, sense of humor. How you see your life is important. Is your life a comedy or is it a tragedy? How do you see the movie that is your life, right? Second is a little exercise. And third was they were self-employed. So y'all going to see me for a while. Because I joke all the time. It gets me in trouble sometimes, I know. All right, no, but my preference, here's the thing. As a filmmaker, it's all part of the zen of filmmaking, right? So it's almost like, which hand do I prefer? If you grow up on a family farm, you learn how to feed, the chickens, take care of the horses, plow the field. It's all part of that zen of family farming. And when you grow up in a by any means necessary filmmaking family, growing up on my dad's set, having to, pull cables, deliver food, act when he needed, help with whatever was, you get in where you fit in. In fact, in this movie here, there's a scene, because one of the tricky things about this was boarding the movie, and Justin's really good with the board. He's like moving pieces around, because it was almost two movies. It was the first part where Chief has his hair, and the second part where he shaved his hair off. So we had to board it like that. But there was one scene where we never got around it, where we still needed me to have hair, and I was already bald. Luckily, my daughters were working on the movie, and they have very similar hair. So I was like, "You love your daddy?" They're like, "Mm-hmm. What is it, Pop?" I was like, "Come on now, you got a lot of extra hair." Because when you do an independent film, sometimes the hair department, departments suffer, and the wig they got looked like a bad Elvis wig you wouldn't wear on Halloween. So I just couldn't use it. So I got my daughters, and we gave them just a little trim, and they
this is going better than I thought it was going to.
They glued the hair on my head. They glued the hair on my head, and then the barber cut it and gave me a nice fade, and it looks like my hair. It was great. So when you have the last name Van Peebles and you work on a movie, you will not only, I know they didn't think that was in the job description, but suddenly whatever it takes to get this done well is in the job description. And I think now you can make a movie if you've got the gumption, but I would say start small, build it up, get better at it, learn your mistakes, be open to criticism. One thing I'm doing now is I'm on this Instagram, and people hit me up on Instagram. They'll tell me what they think of my movies. So you can follow me on Instagram if you want. Mario Van Peebles. It's super easy. But I love the communication. And be open to criticism. So make your movie, get out there, get in those little festivals and let it build up. Some people look at someone on top of a skyscraper and say, how did he get out? How did she or he get up there? Well, a lot of people, the society will tell you, go to the elevator, and you'll wait for the elevator. So you see a whole bunch of people standing in front of the elevator. Ding! They're waiting for the elevator. They got their headshot, their resume. They're getting old. They're waiting for the elevator. I'm not fond of waiting for the elevator. So I'll wait for the elevator a little while, and then I'm going, you know what, there's some stairs over there. I'm going, boom, 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 boom. I get up to the second floor. Ding, I press the elevator. Maybe luck, but God helps them that helps themselves, right? Elevator don't come again. That's okay, I'll text the next floor. So I keep going up, and eventually, even by your own efforts, you'll climb up. You just keep getting better at it. Do your scenes. make a movie, get together with each other. If other people can make money off of you, guess what? You can make money off of you. Don't let the process be mystified. Get out there and make it happen and be fun to work with. I can't emphasize how much that's, especially when you have independent film, because when you have hella money, you can just solve it with money and people will put up with you. But when you don't have hella money, you got to be good to people. You better listen. You better be fun to work with or they will not show up. That's real.
Have you considered doing like inspirational speaking?
Every now and then people ask me to do that, but it's kind of like karaoke, I think. People hear me do karaoke. That's a good. No, I like talking to people and sharing it with people because a lot of this is common sense. It's just, and sometimes it's just a matter of making something that's been sort of deliberately kept from us as actors or artists. And when you can sort of understand the economics of it, it just becomes common sense because film can be a very expensive art form. If you paint a picture, no one's going to tell you not to use yellow because it costs so much more than red. But if you write a script and there's a huge fight scene and a lot of visual effects, someone's got to pay for that. And someone's got to pay for it. They're going to want their money back. And now you're getting into what we call show business. Most of us focus on the show and not the business. And so understanding the business is very liberating and very freeing, I find, as a filmmaker.
So I have another question from Zoe Grail, who asked, I don't know where Zoe is. Hi. I'm
Zoe
sorry.
Grace?
Hi, Grace. Sorry, Grace. Zoe Grace. Do you
I like that name. That's the Zoe Grace. Got a good ring, too.
Do you find yourself wanting to do actual law enforcement or work with actual hero types now that you've played some?
I've researched with them. I'm happy doing what I do. And part of it is early on, I got in a little trouble sometimes as a kid. And most of the time it was because we had a big yard and I invited all the kids down and we'd play and build stuff in my yard. And my parents would yell up, "Mario, quit playing with the other kids and come in and do your homework." And guess what I do for a living now? I play make-believe with all the other kids.
You showed them.
and it's awesome, and I love it, and I'm very comfortable with it. Here's the thing. The more that your job utilizes all of what you and who you are, all the gifts you have, the more you feel completed by your work. So being a filmmaker allows me to use my spiritual side, my creative side, my political side, my diplomatic side, all those things. I think in law enforcement, I would have one component of who I am, and I'd have to leave some of the other stuff at the door. And I think with what I do now, I'm really blessed that I've been lucky with it. Yeah, so I'm happy doing what I do. You're meeting a guy who loves doing what he's doing, and I've been doing it for a minute, and they haven't fired my ass yet. So which means I still haven't fooled. And that's great. I can go off and direct, this and act and that, and dude, couldn't be better.
So one final question. I know you have been doing it for a minute, but do you remember how you got your SAG card?
Yeah, I remember a couple big events. I had done a play. My first play was 1,000 Clowns as a kid, as 11. Then I did my dad's film Sweetback. I did a role in that. It was crazy. And then I did a movie called 1,000 Clowns. No, I did a movie called Cable Car Murder with Robert Hooks. And there's a scene where I play this little sort of thug kid, and Robert comes to see me, and he says, "Do you know where a kid like you is going to end up in 20 years?" And 20 years later, I was directing him in Posse. so I said that. And he was playing my dad. I said, "Yeah, hiring your ass." But let me tell you, you can never tell. That's the thing about this business, man. It goes up and down. I got to tell you one quick story. Okay, you guys, one quick story? Is that okay? Okay. I was doing a movie called Panther on the Black Panthers. And there was this one actor who was a lovely cat. He was an extra. And he was a handsome dude, but he had really big ass eyes, like really big eyes. And You know, he was trying to get, you know, extras. We try to get, because I've done extra work. I know what that is. You trying to get in there, trying to get that little line, trying to get your shoulder in. You trying to see where the camera is and get you post up. You know, you trying to get in there, right? So he's trying to, there was an argument between Bobby Seale and Eldridge Cleaver at a point where Dr. Martin Luther King had gotten killed, shot, and they were arguing about what was the role of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. And Eldridge, or Eldrage as they call him, was saying, we got to seize the time, we got to go out, we got to shoot up some pigs. And Bobby Seale's like, no, man, we were never going to go after the National Guard. Our strength was our food and breakfast programs and our schools and our ideology and understanding of the law. That was our strength, not taking on the National Guard, man. We'll get everybody killed. And there's this huge battle. And in the middle, this kid got in the middle, and he was like, so Bobby would say something, and Eldridge would say something. Bobby said something, he said, I said, oh, man, he's right. I went over, I said, I don't want to take this kid out of the scene, but he looks so comedic. So I went over to the brother, I said, hey, man, you know, you got really big, expressive eyes, brother. He goes, yeah. People tell me that. I said, tell you what, man, could you just like narrow them a little bit? And just like, you know, maybe not look every time, you know, because it looked like a ping pong match. So Bobby goes and does, and Eldridge goes out and he goes. I was like, oh man, this is the, whew. And you know, so I go back, I said, okay, I said, you know what? The Panthers wore shades. These some cool brothers. Give me some shades. So I said, put some shades. So we got some shades. I said, put these shades on real quick, brother. He put the shades on. He looked dope. Got a great face, good bone structure. Put the shades on. I said, now I just want you to look twice. Don't ping pong this shit. Just twice. No ping pong. No ping pong. He said, I got you. He had a funny voice. He goes, no ping pong. I said, okay. But he looked real cool, but he had a funny high-ass voice. So Bobby says this. He goes, I said, cut. He was perfect. I kept it in the movie. Do you know who that Negro was? Chris Tucker. I saw Chris later on. He said, I'm so glad you didn't cut me out of your movie. He makes so much money with them big-ass eyes. Thank God I was nice to him.
You gave him notes. No one gives extras notes.
Yeah, I know. You got to be good to people, man. You don't know. I'm telling you, man. What goes around will come around. Be nice to people. I can't tell you how many situations.
So much work for up-and-coming comics and everything.
Oh, yeah, he's so dope. I've had people help me when I was like, you know, whatever, and you just pay it forward. That's all. Just it'll happen. You just put that good vibe out there, and someone else will continue it. That's it. Just be kind. Do your craft. Don't wait for anybody. Look in the mirror. The person that affects your life more than anybody else is yourself. So if you need to make your own movie or your own play, or you need to discover who else can do it, mix it up, it's yourself. That's who has the biggest effect, really.
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.